garden hose and switching it from a shower setting to a spray nozzle, a jet spray nozzle. Right now, the flood waters, when it comes from upstream, it fans out onto this property, much like a shower setting would. I've walked the property, and the photos I gave you include additional tributaries and lakes that form on this property right where the builder intends to put their building. This property for years has been acting as a natural detention basin for us. By building on this property, you're turning on that jet spray. You're not allowing the water to fan out before it reaches us and to percolate into the ground. The existing waters, the existing flood waters, not the runoff from this property, is going to be diverted from this property and come to us with more force. So while the builder claims they will not add more runoff to worsen the flooding, they are impacting the flood waters that are already coming towards us. Eric, one of the photos, I think it's the first photo that I gave you, is from the backyard of some boys that you've coached for many years. The water's come pretty damn close to their property. You've also told me you walked behind their house and towards the Palmer Avenue property and asked, why are the grounds always so wet back there? Mike, we have erosion in the community. We've talked about that. You also told us about the veterinarian doctor who actually came before the committee and told you whose dumpsters floated away in the flooding. Greg, I've told you in the past that we've had to repair a detention basin. It cost us a lot of money to repair it because of the pounding it takes from the flooding. And Rocco, I don't know if you recall, but there was a couple who live on Middle Road. The wife was here, and she told the committee that her husband almost drowned in the floodwaters when the creek overflowed onto their property. What do you think is going to happen if they build on this property? You think it's going to get any better or worse? Why the hell is it on this list? I just want to switch gears. Maybe this is a question for Andy. Mike, I'll direct it to you. There was talk last week about getting DEP permits and approvals. We were questioning whether the approvals they received were gotten before the Taylor Lane project was approved, which was in June or July, and whether these permits were received before the Palmer Avenue, the raising of the roadway, was approved. I would like to know for 100% certainty because the planners weren't 100% certain last week.
Okay, I'll be deferring to Andy on that. If you could just, similar to earlier, if you could just kind of finish your comments and ask any questions you have, and we'll answer those on the back end.
I just have some closings, and I wanted to say, Eric, Mike, this may be your last committee meeting. I'm hoping that your last committee meeting is going to support the residents and not put us at risk. That you're going to look out for us. I don't want your legacy to be about that you put us at risk. You guys did a lot of good work over the years, and you worked hard. Don't make this about making us scared when the next rainfall comes. Greg, you've been upset with the dysfunctional family or committee that we call, and how it's impacted the whole process over the years. If you vote no, you have a chance to make this right. Rocco, I find you an interesting gentleman, and I mean that in a good, very good way. You are not a politician, and I very much appreciate that. You seem like somebody who cares about the people. Please vote no, and do something that's going to help the people here. So I just have that one question, and again, please vote no.
Thank you. Anyone else for comment? Oh, Andy, you want to respond? Yeah.
There was, Mayor. Well, Mike is also.
You want
to do it, Mike?
Let me respond. Actually, I wanted to give you another set of photos. This is Palmer Avenue last week, by the way. Better, but improved, but still flooding.
I hear you.
So while we fixed the area, it's not really fixed.
So the chief, Jim, first, your concerns and your words don't fall on deaf ears, and I don't discount or dismiss anything you said. It is felt, it's palpable, and when you talk about the spay and neuter center, I was the idiot that climbed under the bridge and
I know.
pulled the dumpsters out of the under the bridge so they wouldn't, so the waterway would clear up. But at the last planning board meeting, I had requested that I get the DEP permits, which, and be mindful that you are represented by legal counsel. Your group is legally represented by an attorney, and they've been attending these meetings and hearings before the judge. I requested the DEP permits, and I have them. And I was curious as to why they were approved. And I can give them to you, it's public information. Your attorney has them, but I wanted to know how were they approved? And the powers that be, that the builder and developer made these cases before, found that they were going to adhere to all these guidelines that they said they were going to do. Now, as to your question as to why would we approve this?
Well,
No, hold on, let me finish. Why would we approve this? Now, as I said at the planning board meeting, I felt like we have a proverbial gun against our head. And if we don't do this, it's out of our hands. It's out of our zoning board, and it's out of our planning board. Now, be mindful, to date, there has been no plan for Palmer filed with the township. Let me say that again. No plan is on file with Homedale Township. I would like to keep it in Homedale Township. Whatever plan is filed, we control what is built and zoned there. I do not want anything built anywhere in this town, and I don't believe anybody up here wants anything built in this town that is controlled by somebody that does not live or reside here. And I think anybody reasonable would agree with that. So, by keeping control of whatever is planned,
what do you actually mean
proposed,
by control?
what-
Because I've
So
seen
if something
zoning,
comes
what's being
so
provided to
the
them.
zoning change would allow for something to move forward. It would allow that proposal to move forward. The plans then have to come before us. Nothing, zero is on file with our planning upstairs. Nothing. I have not seen anything. But keeping it here allows us to dictate the terms and conditions of what gets built. Otherwise, and if you were here at the planning board meeting, if not, it's outside of our control. Now, as I said at the planning board meeting, the Rutgers study is not finished. It's not done yet, and I've been in contact with them, and I'm going to continue to be in contact with them. They did the data studies, and they collected all the data throughout June, July, August, and into September. Now, the graduate students that are doing the work, they don't work as quickly as I would hope, but they are working on it, and they're proposing, and they're finalizing a final plan that we will again have another presentation before the town. With that data, from an outside independent source, we then have a better case to make a presentation before an authority that would have a say on such matters. I don't like showing all my cards, but at the same time, I like stacking the deck in our favor. Would you agree with that? Okay, so I believe that I have full confidence in whomever is up here next year, the year after, or the year after that, they have the best interests of Homedale in mind, and especially Palmer. No one will deny that Palmer Avenue floods. No one will deny that the residents who live in that area have suffered unfairly with water issues, with the flooding issues, with traffic issues down there. No one's going to deny that. But I believe that by keeping it in our control, I believe the people will do the right thing with the right information.
Okay. I'm just going to have one more question in regards to the DEP permits. You had said that you're not sure how they approved it, but you didn't say whether they took into account Taylor Lane or raising of Palmer Avenue.
Well, these were approved June 28th, 2019, which was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Andy, would you correct me on that? This was approved after that was done.
Well,
I think the construction, well, the construction.
Construction was done afterwards, yeah.
no, the construction was done in August.
But the approvals were done many, many months ago.
Yeah.
And Taylor Lane was not officially approved by Middletown until late June, July.
Taylor Lane, that was
they're-
approved over a decade
They're
ago.
planning, well, I don't know
No, it
how
was
the
over a
DEP
decade.
is using it.
I personally called Middletown, and that was approved over 10 years ago.
But the planning board didn't approve it until June, so I don't know if the DEP assumes it's
So
there.
that was the subject of a lot of litigation, and ultimately, I think Middletown resolved the matter with the developer, and I think there was a revised approval given more recently. But I can tell you fair share in our Mount Laurel case, do all the details about the Taylor Lane.
Yeah, it goes back over 10 years.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Palmer Ave now, Palmer Ave. Carol.
I apologize, I didn't make the planning board meeting on Tuesday, I was recuperating from the flu. Along those notes, Mr. Nicholas, am I addressing the right people? If you can
Sure.
it into the mic.
Carol, you can even hold it if you want. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
That's good.
Really good.
Try that. Okay. Better? Better?
Better.
No, it doesn't even sound like it's on.
It is
That's
on.
all.
We hear
It
you.
is? Okay. All right. Was an EIS done prior to designating Palmer Avenue?
If we could just kind of lay the ground rules.
Just give me that
It's
question.
nothing against you, we're just trying to streamline things, so if you could kind of ask your questions,
Oh, all right.
and then we'll
Was an
respond on
EIS
the
my
back end.
first question.
Same
Was an
goes true for
EIS
anyone else
and the
commenting.
cumulative impact, the projected cumulative impact to doing this, done prior to designating Palmer Avenue? I still didn't get my answer about CAFRA, if it's in the CAFRA area, and if the DEP addressed that, okay? And the Rutgers opinion, it does, and I would like to know, for the Rutgers opinion as well, if they include all those things involved. Were hydric soils identified? Were hydrophytes identified? Were alluvial soils identified? And what was the setback to include all those environmentally sensitive areas as far as the overall square footage or estimated area? Okay?
Thank you. Andy, you want to take a shot? And then Mike?
Well, I could discuss a little of it, which is the Palmer Avenue site is not in CAFRA. Middle Road is, but not Palmer. I don't know if, I don't think an EIS was done yet. I don't know if they're gonna have to do that before they go before the board, if they go before the board. But that information was not given to us, as far as I know. It would not have been done at this stage in the proceeding.
Makes sense.
You want to add anything, Mike?
No, I think that about covers it, and I know Mr. Nicholas spoke to the Rutgers status.
Anything on Palmer, Ralph, or good? Good, come on.
Ralph Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. Similar comments on this ordinance, zoning ordinance is on the previous one, but this public hearing put it on the record. I think it's inappropriate to be accepting a bunch of the resource management regs from being required, especially
Ralph.
on a property like this, where there clearly are wetlands issues. Properties have a right, and property owners, to develop their property. So that something might appear on this property, you can't say no to that. The question is how much. The zoning, previous application on this, there was a planning board, was for 60 units, and they thought it, and they denied it because it was too much. Here we come back again with 60 units. It's not going to work. Amongst other issues that aren't addressed in this ordinance, there's some safety issues. There's serious concerns with the prior application, and there's nothing here about it, of how a fire truck, given the wetlands, where would a fire trucks be, and how could get at the building to safely deal if there were a fire in that building? How could a school bus pick up kids that came from this building? Because there was very limited driveway access. So conceivably, maybe a 20 or 30 or even a 40 unit development might work, but not 60. So I don't understand why this ordinance is coming out the way it is when we know a prior application of this nature failed. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. And, we need to do something, we needed to go forward, and I appreciate hearing type box. But I think a better plan would have fewer units on this property.
Seeing no, oh, I'm sorry, Gina?
Hello. Regina Crisione, 35 Rambling Brook Drive, Criscione. My first question is, what is the maximum building length and width on Palmer Avenue that's proposed? It's not written down.
I guess similar to last time, if you don't mind just asking your
Oh, okay.
questions, and we'll
Well,
try to
this-
respond to them.
Okay, so I'd like to know that just to get a sense, when Ralph was saying it's 450 feet was the other building, I just wanted to get a sense of what this would be. The other question is about the property on Fear Street. I know you've been hashing this out for months and months, but it's relatively new to us at this point since the planning board meeting. Fear Street seems like a more logical place to put affordable housing, considering it's across the street from the hospital, and there aren't a lot of homes around there. So couldn't you work with the developer and use some of those credits to help the developer, make it a little more profitable for him there, so that it can reduce the burden, or maybe do away with Palmer Avenue, the site on Palmer Avenue? Those are my questions.
Thanks, and now we'll try to address those. Andy, do you mind if we throw?
Well, I'm not the planner, and Jen wrote this.
Okay.
But I don't see the building length in here. I see,
Square footage. Maximum coverage. Just square.
yeah, it's based on coverage and that
200
kind of thing.
feet.
I don't see that written into the ordinance.
It's in L, section 1,
There you go.
toward the end.
And so you said 200 feet?
No, it says the other ordinance doesn't apply.
I don't know if that section is the building length or not in there.
Oh,
I'm not
shouldn't
sure.
apply.
I don't have that. That was, the planners had worked on this. The only other thing I want to say about this, which I hadn't said, is that this, as I said, I did say this was in our settlement agreement, and the court approved it, but the court approved it after we had an 8-hour hearing where Palmer Square attorney submitted an expert report and a planner who testified before the judge concerning the developability of the site. Palmer Avenue, for the record, also had their own expert who countered that position, and Jennifer Beam testified on behalf of the township as well in that hearing. But ultimately, the judge found the site was developable based on expert testimony that was before her, at least in accordance with the requirements of COA's regulations. So in terms of parking, in terms of the flooding and the water was the main issue in the hearing that was before the judge, or an issue for sure.
Okay, but the question is, would it be possible to go back to the Fear Street site and talk to the developer there? Or has that ship sailed there? I know there were issues about ownership of that.
Yeah, the only other
property,
thing I can tell you about that is that owner, that property owner submitted a letter to the judge within the last, well, the attorney for the property owner submitted a letter to the judge within the last month, within the last 3 weeks, indicating that they were not interested in having their site developed with affordable housing. And that's a matter of record, and the prior developer also submitted, through an attorney, submitted a similar letter.
But was that because of it wasn't profitable enough? Because maybe we could work with that.
I mean, I think we don't want to speculate regarding.
That's what someone said earlier tonight.
Yeah, and I understood, and it's a very valid question. I think, Andy's obviously been handling the litigation. We don't want to read into the motives or the thoughts of the developers, but we're at the mercy of dealing with people who want to negotiate a resolution to the COA. And, there are letters to the court we can reference because it's a matter of public record, but we really can't speak beyond that. So I think Andy's comment, I'll let him speak for himself there.
Okay, thank you.
Chuck?
Scott Goldstein, I appreciate that we're in a difficult position as a community. My understanding by the courts, what you've shared, is that we have to enact ordinances to enable building of affordable housing. But we seem to get caught up with individual builders. Why don't we just do exactly what the court says? Let's enable affordable housing on properties such as North Beer Street, it's Potters, okay, and Bellworks, Somerset, okay, because they have an obligation that starts this coming year, okay? And just do what the court says. Whether the builder wants to build it or not, that's not our responsibility. That's a financial responsibility of the builder or whatever builder comes by who wants to do that.
Andy, can you explain to Scott how that doesn't work that way?
I just have one more other major point on this, okay? Because we're sitting with the Affordable Housing Coalition, okay, and we're looking at some very traditional building processes work with builders. We haven't even looked at looking outside the box at allowing mother-daughter apartments to proliferate throughout the community, allow individual residents to rent a mother-daughter apartment in their house, okay, or over their garage or whatever, that will need affordable housing. We have worked very effectively in but in paying people that have affordable housing to extend that for the next 20 years. So I like those creative solutions that would meet the obligation.
Andy, do you want to help Scott and just inform him of what was done, how we did the extensions and so forth?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we have absolutely taken credit for any way we can to limit the impact of new development in Homedale. As the mayor is pointing out, Homedale had a round 2 obligation going back from 1987 to 99 of 768 units. So there's been a good amount of affordable housing that was developed here historically. And what the township committee did going back 10 years ago through within the last few years is that those controls on those units were coming up to expire, because a lot of the controls back then were 20 years, so they were expiring like in the mid-teens. And so what we did is we had a program where we used the developer trust fund money, offered those owners $10,000, and in exchange they gave the township a new deed, or they agreed to extend the controls on their properties for 30 years. So we actually got 100 credits towards our 297 unit obligation for existing affordable housing that's been here, so that we didn't have to zone for or approve any new housing. We took credit for a group home, 15 beds. There's an assisted living facility that was approved for Meridian. We're getting 11 beds that are affordable, but they have to dedicate by state law. So we took 120, and we had a 4-unit surplus from the prior round, so we took 130 credits for existing, or for not with traditional new housing, and we took 74 bonus credits because the new units are rentals, so that the new projects, the 3 projects that are in the plan are 170, 220, 280 total new units, of which 50, 62 and 12, 74 of which are affordable.
I'd like to interject here for a moment. I think that idea, okay, and working with those individual owners, okay, and entities, it's fabulous, because nowhere in those discussions we're talking about market rate, and I need 4 apartments for the one that I'm going to give you. I would love to see us, and I would be happy to work on finding more properties like that we could convert and do individuals to get to that number, where we wouldn't put such an obligation on building such huge and out-of-place affordable housing elsewhere in our community.
So as I mentioned, this was going on for 3 or 4 years, and I don't even remember, it was the beginning of this year or last year. We were on the North Pier site. I think we had 165 units, actually it was 190 units, and we had got it down to 97 units, and that was a good deal. And I personally think North Piers is a good site. It's by the hospital, it makes sense. Well, it's by my house. Some people want to send mailers that I wasn't for it. I've always been for it. I just didn't want too much density. It's 11 acres. That was a reasonable number. So I was 100% for it. I've never once changed my point of view on that, ever. The developer wanted more. After there was a change at the guard, he wanted a few more units. The negotiation stopped.
But I put our application
So at the end of the day,
zoning to enable
yeah,
that.
listen, I don't know, it stopped, so that property went away. I mean, it's a shame, because there's a lot of advantages to that property, a lot, that Regina brought up, and at the end of the day, we're at.
Okay, so I'm saying, we
So-
can be creative.
So, but, you know, like, listen, everyone's tried to be creative. I mean, it's at some point in time, no one's gonna be happy. That's the reality with this. It's a bad system. You know, write to your assembly, write to your governor, write to your party, and end it, because it's a bad system. But we have to play by the rules, and this is where we're at.
Hey, Andy, can I ask one thing? Isn't it true we've used all our credits? We've used up credits, we have no more sneaky things we can do?
I think what he's referring to is that you get bonus credits that count as units if you have rentals, or, you know, what fair housing want, it doesn't want all senior housing. Everyone says, oh, just bring in more over 55s or assisted living, because they don't enter the school system. It's not right. Like, I appreciate the advice, and I think all of us appreciate the advice, but, you know, fair housing wants families.
Right.
They want young children, because that's what they feel is the need. So we can come up with any plan that fits the units. We still need to get it approved by a court. That's who controls this. So, you know, it's look, I'm not, it requires the algorithms that maybe, you know, you brought up before with Treasury minus pi, but at the end of the day, it is a big challenge. Nobody's up, like, you know, but believe me, you know, when you start counting beds at a home, and we got credits for that. I mean, you know, the people that live there don't like that particular home, but at the end of the day, that was 15 units. That's a big deal. That's like 15 condos, 15 townhomes. So that ends up being a really...
Well, actually, that was 60 market rates. I would say, let's go to those units and say, we'll pay you to do another 10, okay,
Yeah.
and do more of those kind of things.
Yeah, except for the 8 neighbors that live there and that send us hate mail, right? So wherever this goes, no one's going to be happy, let's be clear.
Well, we understand that, but it's spreading that load out. I also want to say, after going to the planning board meeting and the open discussion, I really appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this and the diligence, and we are behind to try to come up with a solution that works as well as it can for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so Barbara, come up. Carol, you already came up on this one, so one shot, and then you gotta wait to the next topic. Go ahead, Barbara.
Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road, Holmdel. A lot of information did come out at the planning board meeting, and part of that information, we did learn that there was a push to take Palmer Avenue off of the list, and one of the reasons the judge said no was because we, as in our township, put it on the list. So she wasn't going to take it off the list. You can't put it on the list, say it's great, it can be done, and then go ask her to take it off. So I really feel badly when Mr. Licata was up here so emphatically speaking to you, because it's not just a flooding issue on the road. I live there, I've spoken about this for the last few years. Spoken to those neighbors, you can't walk there, their homes get water in them. So it's more than just about the flooding on the road. And after hearing what the judge said at the hearing, and then coming here, Mike, and you're talking about you don't want to lay all your cards out, you don't want to show your cards, you want to keep control in Holmdel, that's done. This judge is like, that's done. So I really don't know what you're talking about down the road, because I've heard comments like that in the past few years where it really sounded like Palmer Avenue was being used as a pawn in this game. Right now they're losing. So don't give the public some false sense of there's a lot more, that can be done here. When we have a judge who is very emphatically saying, no, you agreed to this, and she's going to make you stick to your agreement.
When I say keep it here, Andy, have we seen any plans from Palmer, the developer?
No.
I'm sorry, did you say no? Okay, thank you.
But they're coming, so I don't even know
Okay,
what
but there's
you're
no
doing
plans.
right now.
There's nothing has been filed, Barbara. Nothing.
Right, that's a matter of time, isn't it?
Is it? Is it?
You're the one
No, I'm asking you,
who's
is
making
it?
all these like mysterious comments. We're
Is it?
asking you for some honesty
And I'm
transparency.
telling you, no plans have been filed. There's nothing documented on record that we've seen for Palmer Avenue.
So that's great for today. What happens
Yes.
tomorrow? Okay, so you don't know. Thank you.
Okay, Joe. Ex-committeeman extraordinaire, Panisi.
Joe Panici, 24 Crimson King Drive. This was discussed in depthly at the planning board meeting, and maybe Andy, you could expand on it here about the builder's remedy and and talk about the timeline when this has to be adopted. If it's not adopted, what is a builder's remedy and how does that work?
Sure. So, and this was a reference to what Mike was making, what Mike was referring to earlier about control. But if, so we have a court order approving a settlement. If there's a further order in place that says the Palmer ordinance has to be considered and voted on by the committee by the end of December. So that's why we have this, set it up so you'd have the public hearing tonight. So, and if it's not approved, the risk is builder's remedy, and what's builder's remedy is Fair Share Housing would file a motion with the court looking to, because we've been before the court since 2015 on this case, looking to suspend or take away the township's immunity from builder's remedy, and that would allow property owners who have undeveloped property in areas where you clearly, based on my experience in Homedale, do not want development, can come before, can file with the court and say, court, suspend your 5-acre zoning in portions of Homedale where you have 5-acre zoning, or 1 acre or 5 acres. It's right? And it's certainly, well, you're right, there's no, and allow me to build high-density development on your 1 to 5 acre zoning lots, and Homedale order you to figure out how to connect sewer to make the whole project work, because the obligation to provide for affordable housing is a constitutional obligation under the New Jersey Constitution, and that supersedes all these other laws that are being raised here tonight. So the concern from a professional standpoint, as your attorney, and as I know your planner was concerned about, and the committee's been concerned about, is you want to limit the impact of this affordable housing requirement and zone for it in a place where you decide to zone as opposed to allowing an property owner or developer to come in and say, I want to put it in a place where nobody wants it. So that's the idea.
I think the example that was used at the planning board was Potter's Farm,
Yeah.
which is not sewered, and taking running a sewer line at the expense of the township down to 35, and that would be borne by the township there.
Correct. That would be one example. There's a lot of properties in southern Homedale too, right?
There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
34, yeah, all the way down.
But it is a choice. It is a conscious choice. Middletown made that conscious choice. They were going to fight COA. They said, take it, we'll take it to the court. So it's an option.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, I guess a motion to approve.
Vote.
Roll call.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yeah, so I've struggled with this one for a long time, as I said up at the front end. We really don't have any options in front of us right now. In fact, in 2018, the mayor and I had a meeting with the then administrator, and we agreed to let her enter into this site with less units than we have here in front of us today. So the buy down is really costing me potentially a lot of money that shouldn't be, because, and Andy's heard this from me over and over and over again, that we never authorized this many units for this property. So that to me is extremely disturbing, because that administrator did not have the authority to negotiate on our behalf unless we agreed to it beforehand. Fortunately, we're in a situation with the courts right now, And I don't want the builders running me, so I will vote yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Accuse myself.
Mr. Nicholas?
Yes.
Dr. Pascucci?
A quick statement. Middletown prepared themselves for the code, which we did not do. They prepared their properties in advance knowing this was coming, number one. Number two, don't like COA, really don't want to do this, but builder's remedy scares the heck out of me. Because it's not only the site, it's what they can put on the site. Whether you want a 20-story building, it's not just the site, guys, it's what they can put on it. And Homedale's prime territory. I have to vote yes for this.
Mayor Hines?
Nah. I'll abstain. Abstain. I don't like it. Departments, admin? Sharon?
No report.
CFO?
We got two things on the agenda tonight. First one is the corrective action plan for the 2018 audit that the governing body has approved.
So I make a motion for that? Motion? Roll call?
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholas?
No.
Dr. Pascucci?
Yes.
Mayor Hines?
Yes. Anything else?
Yeah, the second item is that you have to certify to the state that you have read at least the comment and recommendation section of the audit.
Motion? Motion?
Second.
Mr. Bontempo?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholas?
No.
Dr. Pascucci?
Wait, but, point of order, isn't this just that we read it?
That's correct.
Yes.
Mayor Hines?
Yes. Engineer?
No full report, Mayor, other than to note that the township was awarded a DOT grant for $180,000 for road improvements in town.
Okay. Legal?
No update, Mayor.
Public comment? Any?
Wait.
I'm sorry.
Boards, committees?
Boards and committees. Start with you, Rob.
All right, fire. I got to thank this mayor and township committee for working for this new fire department and fire department building. This is not a one-man show. This is a whole committee that does this. This has been going on for years and years, and I think this committee solved it. My recommendation to the committee tonight is going to be, we have two sites we were going to do. One, Crawford's Corner Road, combine the fire with the current first aid buildings, retrofit it for fire, and build a new first aid building on land that we own behind the postal office. The second option, and this is the one I'm going to recommend, is that we do a completely new fire department building. It'll cost about $4.2 million, which is what we have left out of our $5 million after taking the $800,000 out for the truck. It'll be about 10,000 square feet. It'll hold 3 bays. It is expandable, so if we have to expand it in the future, it'll be on 6 acres. It'll be on the side of F&F on Roberts Road. We own the property, so we don't have to pay for it. It'll be situated far enough in the back, so it shouldn't affect the neighbors across the street. The architect guaranteed us he can put a berm to block the farmer that currently lives close and from the street. So my recommendation is that we move forward with more detailed plans from the architect and get the engineer involved now with the site work. The fire department has signed off on it, and they're happy. They will make it their new home. They will not hang at Centerville. They will hang in the center of Homedale now at that site, and that's what we want. We want a home where they are. Right now they hang at Centerville. They're there all the time. They need to be in the center of town. So I'm recommending that we go forward. I'm also recommending at the same time, though, since we're going to be taking away fire from the Crawford's Corner building, is that we're going to keep OEM there. I recommend they need a bay or two, but that we can retrofit a bay or two there for first aid. So where first aid currently is, there's a door that attaches to the fire. So I'm recommending that as we do this, the architect can look at and work with the first aid members to give them more of a building and more space there. I would like the township committee's opinion on this and to vote to move forward. We have to do this as a committee.
Mark, I have a question. Can you share with the public what you spoke to me about yesterday about the Crawford's Corner site and why the property across the street wasn't suitable?
Oh, the reason the site's not suitable is it's really small. We have everything crammed in there. So to put a fire department in there, we really can't retrofit the building to give them what they need. They need outside space too, to train for their hoses. We can't really retrofit that building. Everything is crammed out, you see. The space we have behind, where we were gonna put first aid, we just can't put the fire there, getting the trucks to turn around and that. So that's why I'm recommending the site on the F&F property. Remember, it's our site, it's not farmland and anything, we own it. So that's why I'm picking that site. We cannot do it, and the fire department doesn't feel that site can give them all the things they need. Training room, kitchen, meeting room, sleeping quarters for both male and females. There are female firefighters. Okay. So we have to take that into account. So it will be a 10,000 square foot building. Fire department is happy with it. Of course, it's going to need fine touches. So I'm recommending that we do F&F on the side on Roberts Road. Not in the front on the corner, no land swap, just on the side on the land we currently own. Any questions more, hit me with them.
So across from the current EMS building, there's a building. We had a conversation a long time ago, and that was going to be a consideration for the new EMS building if we built that. Then you were going to think about maybe just making that the firehouse, and it's not, is you saying there's not enough property there?
There's not enough property, and the building per se, I don't think, that we can retrofit it in what the fire department needs. I need a place where they can hang, train, learn everything, and it's not going to be the place. It has to be in the center of town. We need a bigger place, and we need something that's expandable for the future, whether we're going to put another facility there or just expand the base. So we're going to keep 3 trucks on the F&F site, and 1 truck will be staying at the Centerville building.
And even with all the land that we have that stretches all behind the senior center, knock down that building, there's not enough land there to do a firehouse right there?
It doesn't seem to fit. So I'm recommending that we do it on F&F.
So I rode over there today, and someone mentioned to me, and she happens to be in the audience, my lovely wife. She loves it when I mention her name. Did we consider the parking area further towards the parkway? I know there's a yard there. There's maybe an impound lot. I mean, I'm just trying to...
If we were going to do the firehouse, we were going to have to keep it there, retrofitting the fire and first aid into a fire. We were going to have to take some of the property for the impound lot to give it a turnaround for the ladder truck.
Okay.
So we would have had to take some of that property. Still doesn't seem enough for training. So my opinion is first aid should stay there, expand a little bit, and a new building for fire. I don't know how you're going to word this, Counselor.
Well, I have one other thing I'll add. I know some of the folks that live across the street from F&F have reached out to me as they've reached out to you. Would it be appropriate, Mayor, to maybe open it up to some public comment at this time? On just specifically fire?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we vote on anything.
So specifically on the location of the firehouse, pros and cons, I'm going to open up to the public, and that only. Let's hear from somebody new. Let's go, Ron Emma.
Ron's not new.
Guys.
Ron Emma, 32 Ladwood Drive. Just so I'm clear of the exact location, if Crawford's Corner is north and south and Roberts is east and west, there's a farmhouse across from Bell Works, Roberts Road entrance. Would the firehouse be to the west of that house? Where exactly on F&F are you talking about?
We have a picture that we can show you.
South of that house.
It's south of the house. We own the
Behind the house.
Southwest. It's right on the main road. It's right on Roberts Road.
But there's horses in front.
No.
There's a farmhouse.
Yeah.
And then there's there's a river and some land over there.
We can show you a
Yes.
picture, which we have, but it is 6 acres that we can build on,
It's
6
be-
full acres.
It's between the farmhouse and the woods. It's not on the corner of the site.
It's down the road across from the side entrance.
Farmhouse on the creek.
At the curve of the road.
Okay, which is the smaller part of that land. It's not the front where the
No.
Roberts Road and Crawford's Corner is.
No.
So that's perfect. That's perfect. What houses are across the street other than the new houses at Bell Works?
Those are the new houses that Bell Works. But we think
So those are-
we can help. The architect already looking to put a burn in the front, so we can help those people. And there's gonna be a light on the side, so when the trucks come out, like on the highway, they don't gotta come full blasting. The light will go on, saying the fire truck is coming out, we gotta stop. So, we do have, but we can show it to you.
That would be great if we could see exactly.
I don't know yet if I can get it up there.
All right, I apologize.
I think
Can you draw it real quick?
You don't want to see that.
I've got Blumenthal to do it, and I'll be good.
I happen to think that's the perfect location. I applaud you for picking that location as a central location. But I do hear, it seems to me, both Mr. Patelli and Mr. Hines, you seem to be somewhat reluctant for this new site. Why is the land that apparently Mr. Prescucci has already deemed too small, why are we saying, it seems like you're hung up with behind the senior center of the post office?
Well, that's where a lot of our emergency services are stationed now, and it's not really that far away from what, if you're calling it the perfect site, I don't necessarily believe it's the perfect site, and I'll tell you why. We've considered putting other things on that site over the 7 years that I've sat here. We talked about that as a possible location for our library.
That was the original reason for the separation.
The engineers, who I have a lot of faith in, said that's a difficult location because of the way the road contour is, the curve and the elevation, there's some site issues. So that's a problem. You've got wetlands behind it. I heard from some people today very clearly that waterway, feeds our reservoir system. So now you've got to put new construction there. So that's the second concern I have. Third concern is there's people that'll be impacted. The people across the way that just spent $2.5 million on their homes, okay, versus over here where it really won't impact anyone. So that's my issues right now.
So not my backyard kind of thing, because those houses 2 years ago weren't here, and we've owned that property for many, many years. It just seems like centrally located.
It could be centrally located. I haven't decided how I'm going to vote. I'd like to hear from everyone.
Listen, Ron, I think my only concern is for the neighbors. Being that this is my last meeting, I would probably, and this is the first I've heard of that particular property, that was the strong recommendation. I think we should just give notice, and that for all the residents, and not like 500 feet, all residents, both neighbors on both sides, hear a really good comment. If there's not a strong public, aghast of it, then so be it. Listen, we need a firehouse centrally located. Personally, I thought that we could make something work on the entranceway, but it's 6 acres, and if the residents in those neighborhoods don't mind, I don't mind.
Thank you.
Can I just make another comment?
Sure.
This is well known to everyone because people walk that neighborhood.
Yeah, but it wasn't put on the
You knew it was
agenda or
going
anything.
there on F&F. People knew that. This is not a new thing. This has been talked about.
That's what I was getting at. Where is this coming? Where is this
Yes, I
reluctance
would
coming
happy
from all
to
of a
hear from the
sudden?
public. I don't want to impact everyone. I lived across from the high school. When I moved there were 4 games a year. Now the games are every night, all day Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 9. I didn't complain. We're neighbors. We all got to take care of each other. I think it's a perfect spot, but I'm only Rocco. I need a vote of this. I'd be happy to hear from the public.
I happen to agree with you. One last comment. Where are we with the fire truck?
I received the specs, was it today or yesterday?
Yeah.
Today, this morning, so we'll get moving on that. I just got them.
So we're gonna put a down payment, we're gonna pay for it, we're gonna order it.
We just got the specs, so I'm going to go through the purchasing process and we will move forward
And
and
it's through
order
a
it.
co-op, so it'll be easier.
Yeah, we don't have to bid it.
Thank you.
What's next? Please, Kim.
Kim Wygan Casola, 939 Homedale Road. I applaud all of you, and especially you, Rocco, for the hard work you have put into this fire. I mean, I live
right in the village. We have nothing. I'm in a house that's almost 300 years old. There was another fire across the street at the end of October, which was another debacle. I think your location is perfect. I originally entertained the same idea you did, Tom. I was thinking over there. Over the years, the traffic there has become horrendous. So aside from a space issue, it's very tight. Everybody uses that as a parkway entrance. It's as busy as 114, it's as busy as 117. Sometimes it's impossible to pull out there. There's many near misses, people trying to pull into the post office. They think you're pulling up the parkway. It would be, I believe, a traffic disaster to locate a firehouse right where the existing first aid is. I think the F&F property is excellent. I'm definitely always aware of sensitivities toward neighbors. However, the lights that stay on in the Bell Works parking lot till late at night light up that whole neighborhood anyway. I think by, carefully placed trees and the careful exit, nothing is aiming towards those houses. Those first two houses are pretty far off the road. So thank all of you for working on this, and really thank you so much, because this is something we are desperate for and we really need to move ahead with.
Scott?
Scott Goldstein, 24 East Lawn Drive. That's great news about the progress on the PO on the fire trucks. We are waiting patiently. That goes through, because we keep hearing delays. We'd like the PO to get out there so we get in the queue that this thing gets built. We brought up before, Rocco, that we promised to see some preliminary designs of the firehouse, and that hasn't been put up on the website to my knowledge.
We met with the fire department. They had some comments on the preliminary designs, so I'm waiting for an update from the architect, and we will get those up.
Again, we'd just like to share the information to the community. I think the old library site at F&F is a fabulous site to locate a new fire station. And the last question is, I think we already went out and purchased, placed the purchase order and bonded for the new radios.